Hey everybody, let's talk Adepticon 2024. We're back again with another ASR miniature art review from a convention. As you guys know from seeing previous videos on my channel, I like to do a little bit of a summary video going into events that I've attended, whether that be a tournament or a convention, typically a convention, but I like to kind of go over what I went for, what I was hoping to do, what I was expecting, and then also a recap of how the event went and what actually ended up happening, just to help you guys kind of get educated on what the event's about and maybe help decide if you want to go later or not. I did one of these last year for Adepticon 2023, which you can see on the YouTube channel, and it would be kind of fun probably to do like a little side by side and see what changed and what was better, and kind of go from there. I do have to say that without getting too ahead of myself, this year was twice as good. I didn't know that last year Adepticon was my favorite event I attended. I did not think it could get better, and this Adepticon was without a doubt just better. It was so much more fun. Some of the big differences there were events ran smoother. The events I attended ran smoother. Adepticon did a couple things differently with like the swag badges you could get. Like there were only 2 passes and things like that. And I'll get into the details of that. But some of you might be asking, what is Adepticon? If you're new to the channel and don't really understand what these events are, Adepticon is a miniature wargaming convention, which is a tabletop wargame scene with just tons of tournaments. If I understand correctly, I think it's the largest, or definitely one of the largest, miniature wargaming conventions out there. It's based out in Schaumburg, Illinois, and it's just an absolute great time. That's just right outside of Chicago. They do it every year in March. It's been going on for a long time. This is my second time attending, and I just had an absolute blast. So that's what Adepticon is. Now, before I get into all the events I went to, some of the things that changed from last year for myself. I don't know if not all of these are going to be specific to the convention. Some of them are, but some of them are more for my personal experience. So we had more people from Oklahoma go. So I'm based out in Oklahoma. Last year it was Mike, Josh, and I. And this year we had Mike, Josh, and I go, but also Travis, Preston, Matt, Aaron, Colton, Brian, I wrote them all down here, Jerry, and I think that was everybody. If I missed you guys, sorry, I love you. There was also some really good friends of mine from Dallas that I saw come up to that we got to hang out. So we had more people that I was friends with and rooming with and driving around with. That made it a lot easier. A lot more coordination, a lot more group activity. There was no just all right, we're done kind of loner mode. So that was a lot of fun. It's really fun to go in a big group. Some things that were specific to the con itself was the events I attended ran smoother. I felt like last year there were a lot of delays in rounds. There was a lot of times where, we were running out the door and an event was still going on that I attended to. And that's just not fun. You want to be able to finish the event and be there for all the awards, celebrate everything. And when you're kind of just sprinting out the door, that's not what you want to be doing. So another one is, and this is probably actually the biggest one, so kudos to the Adepticon staff for this. They mailed out our badges. So last year we had a big issue where we showed up before registration was closed. We waited in a line for like an hour, got there, and then they said they're going to close registration for like an hour break. And so we wasted just a ton of time. It was ridiculous. And it sucked. And then we just ended up saying, screw it. We went out and ate dinner and we went to bed. And we just showed up early the next day to get our badges the next morning. Well, this year they gave an option. You had to pay for it, but they gave an option to have your badge shipped to you. So you would skip registration, basically. I loved it. We paid for that. Everybody in my group paid for that. We loved that. It was absolutely great decision at Adepticon. I don't know if any of you guys are going to see this, but absolutely loved that choice. Another thing, though, was also the badges. So last year there were 3 tiers of badges, and there was a there was a VIP pass that got a ton of swag, a ton of free goodies, a ton of really good stuff, but they sold out almost immediately, and it sucked. And several of us missed out on it. And this year they only had 2 badges. It was a basic and an advance, and they made the advance just so much more abundant. None of us that wanted, I think, missed out on it. And we got a ton of free goodies. I'll put pictures up, of course, throughout of everything for the whole event. I'll put pictures up. But, I got free Shatterpoint models, free MCP models, free Warhammer models, free cool little 3D printed things. Like, just an absolute blast of an event with the free goodies I was able to get for getting that advanced badge, which I missed out on last year, and that was sucked. So really, really great time there. Good choices all around. So I went for several competitions and events. So the games I went for, I only went for two miniature games, and that was Star Wars Legion by Atomic Mass Games, and also Kings of War by Mantic Games. I did the last chance qualifier for Star Wars Legion, and that was a Thursday event. We showed up Wednesday, and we were there till Monday morning, and we left. That was a Thursday event that I paid to enter, and the Legion Worlds tournament is hosted at Adepticon. And they had a last chance qualifier for anybody who I believe went undefeated, then got to go to day one of Worlds. So I took my clone list, which you guys will see pictures of this, I think, as well when as I'm talking here. So just hang tight if you don't see it. I took my clone list, and my Anakin clone commander quad medic clone list that I just absolutely love running. It's a cool looking list. It's Plo's Bros. Did the Wolf Pack. Absolute blast painting it. Also, sidebar, super pumped for Bad Batch and Commandos coming out, and ARF Troopers. I think if any of you guys are Legion fans, you'll have seen that stuff's been spoiled and shared around. So really looking forward to that. Also, Jedi Apprentices, I think, or something like that are showing up. Generic Jedi units are showing up. So, anyhow's it. I went and I lost game one to awesome fellow named Jonathan from I think I want to say it was Scotland. So Jonathan, if you ever hear this and you're not Scottish, I'm sorry. But he ended up. I think he was telling me his team won X-wing Worlds in Belgium this last year for the teams event, which is really cool. But he was a really great guy. We had an absolute blast. I won't go really too much into my games because it's just not something that I pay attention ton of details to. But a lot of it came down to is I got really aggressive trying to kill Iden. He played an Iden Moth list, and I lost 3 ARC Trooper teams, strike teams to Iden. And then he also had a really cheeky. We played Recover the Supplies. He had a really cheeky play with the Dark Troopers that ended up costing me the game. It came down to a really close margin for us to be able to pick up the token, and he ended up getting it. So then my game two, I can't apologize, I can't remember your name, but I played against a fellow that was running a Blizzard Force list with quad E-Web, and we played Sabotage Voice Wraps, which is a rough mission because I'm at 800 point bid, and it's a mission that's designed where you can just press the buttons on your evaporators and force a tie, and then it goes straight to kill points. And because I'm at 800 and he was at 799, I by default then just win, and we never actually interact. Well, so he knew this going in, so he had to kind of like launch his ATST at me. I killed his ATST and then ran away. Wasn't a very dynamic and fun game, but we got the W, and hey, that is what it is. After that, I ended up dropping from the event. I just was, I couldn't make it into the next day. I was really tired. We were exhausted. So many of us showed up and played, and we were just wore out. So I ended up dropping and just going and relaxing and watching games and having a good time, just enjoying the atmosphere. AMG did a really good job, I think, of cultivating a really great play space, beautiful tables for everything, for Shatterpoint, MCP, Legion, X-Wing, all that. They also had a really awesome prize wall where for every game you played, you got like 8 tickets, and then if you won, you got 2 more tickets. And they gave out all sorts of cool stuff, alternate cards, alternate acrylic token sets for like Shatterpoint, like range widgets and stuff, and MCP, and just absolutely a blast. They these also all these were really cool rollouts and things with really sweet arts on them and things. Just a really sweet looking setup they had going on. So big shout out to AMG. You guys are real classy and keeping on a good show, and we really appreciate that. I know a lot of our guys play a lot of your games, Shatterpoint, Legion specifically, and we really enjoy them. So thank you guys for putting on a fantastic time. So before we get too far off Legion, though, I also entered into the Army competition, the Army competition for Star Wars Legion Worlds, because they were allowing anybody to enter into the judging. That was my understanding. I asked multiple times. Shout out to the judges who answered my questions about the painting competition at least a dozen times, and because so as a lot of you guys know, I paint, and the hobby part of this is a big deal to me. And so when I go to these conventions, a lot of times I'm going for the painting side of it, just as much or more than the gaming side. So I wanted to make sure my army that I thought I'd worked really well on was entered into that and eligible to win something. I have a really cool display board with an AAT that's crashed on it. All of my clones have free-handed Wolfpack logos on their shoulders. They've got battle damage. There's snow. The Plo Koon model I have is fantastic. And I was really worried that because I have a 3D printed Plo Koon, now I brought a legal Anakin model to play with if that was a problem, but I was worried that my Plo Koon would actually cause me a problem because it's not an AMG model. That ended up not being the case. I did not get best painted or top three best painted, but I got best display, which to my understanding, I believe it's more better translated as best theme. So the while the technical painting wasn't the best, the display board, the story it's telling, the composition, the overall coolness, the wow factor was pretty high up there. I actually ended up getting the same prize as first place painting, so they weighted it fairly high as well, and they took photos and things, and so I actually ended up winning an Adepticon medal, which those are very highly sought after in my opinion. They look great. They have a cool skull logo and then the name of the event and what you won and the year and everything. And I think those are, I mean, they're the things to win at this is the Adepticon medals, other than of course maybe your specific event's prize. But I ended up winning an Adepticon medal, and I also won a airbrush from Badger Airbrushes. I got a Sotar 2020, which was really awesome. Just absolutely fantastic. And yeah, so that was my Star Wars Legion experience. I also went for Kings of War, like I mentioned before, and then three other painting competitions. I did Golden Demon, Brush with Death, and Resin Beast. So before we get too far into this, though, I didn't do the best in the painting competitions, but there is one I won't spoil it too soon that really got me excited, and it's something that I'm eager for going forward into the future here. So, Kings of War is Adepticlash is the name of the Kings of War event Adepticon. I did it last year, and I just have to give a shout out to the whole event. It was ran just incredibly better, just so much better than last year. The Mantic application that runs the tournament worked this year. We had all the rounds finished on time. There was no question of if we were going to have enough time to do stuff. I wasn't running out the door in the middle of the event. And it was just an absolute blast to attend it this year and have it run so smoothly. So big shout out to that event. I absolutely enjoyed it. It was a great time. It was 5 games of Kings of War, and while the games were a little rough, and I'll go through my games in a second, I do want to point out I played against 4 out of my 5 games. 4 were people that I'd never played against, and that is just awesome. Especially when you're not doing well, you want to meet new friends. And so only one of them I had played before, and it was cool because it was kind of a grudge match. So if you want to do a repeat, you want to get those licks in right where they count. So the games were, and I'll have pictures up of these as well. I played against Richard Penertz, I believe is his name. He was playing Undead, and we were playing a mission called, was that one Stockpile? I think that one was Stockpile. And I mean, really, a lot of it came down to it's Undead versus Empire Dust. That's the army I brought was Empire Dust, and both of those armies are just incredibly grindy, and it comes down to some positioning errors that I made, as well as I mean, dice are always thinking I'm not going to blame the dice, but it's kind of just with us both being really grindy. He has more pivotal units, and I have more tankiness, and I had to be more aware that positioning. Now, that being said, this is also my first tournament playing Empire Dust, so I was a little rusty with them, and I've definitely already seen some things that I would probably want to change in my list going forward. But we've got Lone Wolf on the horizon. We'll be doing a video for that, but definitely some things I would probably change after participating in that event. So, but that was my game with Richard. Next, I played against the one opponent that I was familiar with, which is Alan Wigness. And I'm going to say right now, I don't know that I'm going to remember everybody's last names, but Alan Wigness and I have played at Best of the Rest when he was running, I believe it was his Salamanders, and I was running Berenger. And he just had a field day against me. Well, this year, we were playing Dwarves versus Empire of Dust. Much different game. And we were playing, what were we playing? It wasn't Hold the Line. It wasn't Stockpile. Um, it was one where we put loot tokens down and go grab them. I think. I can't quite recall. So sorry about that, guys. I can't quite recall the mission we played. However, Alan and I, we were happy to play each other. I love Alan. He's a really, really cool guy. And the event I go to every year, Bug Eater, is pretty much the only event that I go that far north for usually, and he can't ever attend it. So him and I have a really good friendship, but we don't get to see each other very often. And so anytime we get paired up against each other, it's just an absolute blast. We were laughing the whole time, cracking jokes, just absolutely loved it. He's a fantastic fellow, and it was so fun to get to play him again. And this time I came out on top. Drew Richardson of the Empire Dust was able to beat Alan Wigness's dwarves. So that was that was pretty fun getting my payback, and I think a lot of it showed. I was picking up some more stuff with EOD, and I was starting to understand things better. Like there was a turn where I was, oh, you know what it was? We were playing. I believe we were playing Push. I think that's what it was. We were playing Push, because the whole tournament was about scenarios that changed or were new from the Clash of Kings released last year, and so I had a turn where I was able to fly around behind a whole horde of dudes of defense 4 like super hitty dwarf guys and surge my undead worm into the back of them, and that just swung the tide of the game. It was huge. It was absolutely huge, and it was an angle that was difficult to see, and then it was something I kind of just thought at, and they were the dragon was supposed to get like a hindered flank into another unit, but it was like, no, this is I think the better option. Unhindered rear is, and it ended up killing a token carrier, and I want to say that just cost Alan that whole flank. So it was a lot of fun. I don't want to just sit here and gloat either, but we laughed the whole freaking time. It was so fun, and we had people around us laughing about what we were laughing about, and it just brought a really great aura into the room for everybody just having a good time. And that's Kings of War, to be fair, as a whole, such a good time. Everybody's just drinking, laughing, have a blast. And Alan and I, it was fantastic getting to play another game against Alan. So I look forward to, we're 1-1, buddy. If you see this, next time we run into each other, we'll have to fight again. So next is another fantastic individual, Connor Murphy, who was playing Ogres. Him and I ended up playing against each other at this event, and we've seen each other before, many times at other events, and we never got to play each other. Well, he ended up like just absolutely just wrecking me. It was like turn 2, I lost 5 of my 15 units, something like that, and I hadn't killed anything, and the game was just over. We were playing Hold the Line, and I don't want to. He pointed out it was a hard mission for me, hard matchup, which is true. But man, he also just threw dice like a madman, and I ended up getting basically tabled. I had like 1 unit alive, and I gotta say, like I haven't been tabled in a long time. That's just how rough the game was. But he was fantastic about it, and I played through the whole game. I got to kill his Big D, his mammoth or whatever it is, that stupid brutal bonus, chariot thing. And I was like, all right, we killed the cow. We killed the cow. We got the sacrificial cow. We killed it. Kill that thing. And I told him, I was like, you can play with the base for the rest of the tournament. You can't play with that model. You're not allowed to anymore. That's the punishment for what he did to me. So, and I didn't check it, but I'm trusting him that he did the right thing and that he didn't play with it. So no, but we had a lot of fun, and I mean, and that's that's Kings of War right there. If I'm gonna get just absolutely stinking stomped and wrecked, I'm gonna at least have fun with an awesome fellow across from me and a great guy and a fun opponent, and we laughed and made jokes the whole time, and it was just fun. If I'm gonna lose, I want to lose against people I've not got to play against before and friends that just make me smile. So kudos to you, brother. The next game was against Jeremy Duvall, who was running Basilians, and we played Rays. And Jeremy is another person that I've known for a long time, but I've never really got a chance to truly interact with or play against. And Jeremy assists with the Countercharge podcast that Rob Fanuth, I believe him and Rob run it, and Jeremy's a really, really cool guy. And he's always been around. He's very active in the Kings community, but we've not personally got to like chill and have a good time together. And he got me. He blitzed me. Let me tell you, angels are hard to deal with. And he brought a lot of angels, and he brought the a Sisterhood Infantry Horde that I had a turn where I could almost break him, but I ended up whiffing, and he collapsed in on me, and pretty bad. I mean, it wouldn't have changed the tide of the game, but to add insult to injury, there was a couple units I probably should have killed that I wasn't able to, and I was hoping, for a minute there, it was looking like the game was going to be a 4-3 loss, where I was going to be able to raise all my tokens, but he would control the middle because he was going to raise his tokens for sure too. But then, I mean, there were just some combats that I feel like I really should have won, and I lost him. So it ended up being, I believe, a 4-2 in his favor, and that was just, like I said, it wouldn't have changed me losing. He did really well, and he also let me in a little bit of insight that he's been playing a lot of Empire Dust. So he knew my Jeremy, you knew my tricks, buddy. But it was a great time. We were laughing, making just dumb jokes the whole time, and that was it was an absolute blast. We started talking about all sorts of just goofy shenanigans. So really appreciate the game, man. And then my last game was against Kinney Lowell, I believe, who is a brand new player to Kings. I think this was his first tournament. He was playing Abyssal Dwarves, and we were playing Invade. So normally I would say that's just a rough matchup for Abyssal Dwarves, but that would be because I was playing like Varinger. This time, however, playing Empire Dust, we're both pretty slow, and it's gonna come down to, okay, who's gonna end up at that point, hitting who first and winning the game. And so what ended up happening is I ended up getting a pretty good flank. Not like an actual flank, but I won a side with my undead worm into some cavalry and some obsidian golems. Ended up winning that side and just pushing hard down the other side. And we both knew. I think I mentioned to him. I was like, "Hey, I'm sorry to let you know, but neither of us are going to win the tournament." And we laughed a little bit about that, and we just kind of were going over some different things, helping him learn some stuff. He was pretty green, and he was really just, he's like, hey man, I'm looking at playing Empire Dusk, and we talk about some stuff. Can we go over some things? Can we? And one thing that was really cool that he did was he was like, hey, what's something you wish would have happened that during the tournament? Like, what's a cool moment? And I mentioned, I was like, oh man, I have the Soul Snare. It's like my favorite spellcaster. I would love for it to one shot a unit, kill a unit. And he's like, let's try to make that happen. And so we're trying to create really cool. I mean, because at that point, we're not going to win the tournament. It's not going to matter who wins this game. So he's like, let's tell a cool story. Let's have a good time. And I was able to have my Soul Snare. It wasn't anything crazy, but I was able to kill a Dragonfire team, one of the weapon teams. I think that's what they're called, for Abyssal Dwarves with my Soul Snare. So it was a good time. But I ended up getting that game, putting me overall 2-3, and I think I got 30th out of 40 people who were there. But again, I ended up meeting a lot of new people and playing against people who I've never got to play against, and I had a group game every game. And sports is always a hard thing in King's War because everybody's such a good opponent, and it's hard to vote for your best and stuff. And so, speaking of sports, let's go over some winners and things for the event. And my really good friend from War Chest Creations, Tim Lonis, actually got Best Sportsman. So good job, Tim. Tim, you're a great guy. I love you to death, and you deserve it for sure. You seemed like you were having just an absolute blast all weekend, and that seemed to have rubbed off on your opponents, and you just made sure everybody was having fun. So really awesome for that you got that. I'm proud of you for it. Jeff Schultz. This is the part I always mess up because I never have a reference sheet in front of me, but Jeff Schultz really got overall, and then I don't recall the name, but best journal was given to a guy over from England, which is cool. And then let's see, best sports player's choice was to Corey. I can't remember Corey's last name, but and then best painted went to myself. So now we're at the point where I've gotten 2 Adepticon medals this year. Best display / overall theme for the Star Wars Legion, and then best painted army for Mantic's Kings of War event, which I was just over the moon. I did not expect to get it at all. There was some other Mantic armies there that were pretty nice, and some non-Mantic armies that were really nice. And there's some like bonus points for Mantic and stuff, but it's a lot of really beautiful pieces out there, and I was just lucky, I think, to just be among them, let alone win the best painted. So really thrilled about that. Now, what was also cool about it is they had Mantic had, I guess, brewed or bought. I don't know how this all works, but they bought 240 bottles of rum, and it's called Goblin Blaster Dwarven Rum, and it's they only have 240, and I got like number 234 that they've given away as my prize, and I was just over the moon for that. I think that is so cool. Like the Adepticon medal is fantastic. Not gonna say that it ain't, but when tournaments do really unique prizes like that, that's the stuff people want. That's the really cool stuff. Like I got a trophy and I got a medal and stuff, but better than that, I got a really cool conversation piece that's sitting on my mantle above my fireplace right now, underneath my deer head and all my best of the rest dagger and stuff. And so it's really cool, and it's something that I can show off and decorate around my house without it also looking too nerdy or goofy or whatever. But it's just a beautiful glass bottle of rum that I can kind of show off and talk about, and I think that is so cool. It was fantastic. So that's the two miniature game, like the wargaming events I did. Didn't do very good in the events themselves, but as far as hobby stuff goes, I just was an all-star this weekend. 2 Adepticon medals for painting. Absolutely thrilled about it. I've checked off the box for my clones. I'm trying to get a best paint hobby award for all of the Star Wars Legion armies, and I've gotten Empire and droids and now clones, and I just need to do Rebels next. So we're gonna still take clones, I think, for the rest of this year, but we're gonna start working on some Rebel stuff and just having a good time with it and see what we can find to get inspired and start playing. So as far as like pure painting competitions go, there was also, you know what? I'm going off script here. Before we get into the painting comp stuff, I do want to give out some shout outs to some demos I did, actually, and some games I saw that were interesting. So a couple games that I saw were interesting that I didn't get the demo, but did still want to bring up was Corvus Belli with Infinity and Warcrow. I used to be a really big Infinity guy. Was all as always, it was awesome seeing those guys again. I see them every year at Adepticon. Scott Tipsword and the whole gang over there, Rob and they're a fantastic group of guys. I hope to get around to Infinity again someday and paint some minis and get to spend some time with them and have a laugh or two and drink, of course, because that's the best thing to do while you play Infinity. And then also Warcrow, which is Corvus Belli's fantasy setting that they're working on, and they did demos for it this year. I did not get to demo it, but that's not because of anything bad. It was because it was so packed that I could never get a demo. They had demos going the whole time that I was there trying to swoop in with. I was with our local store owner Mike, and we got some contact info from Arsenal and Corpus Belli. There's, we're or I shouldn't say we're. I'm definitely interested in to see where things go with Warcrow. The models are beautiful. Now that being said, models aren't everything, but I do think they're gorgeous, and I would love to paint some again. Now, one game that my store owner and I did get involved in, and that he invested in pretty heavily, and I got a copy of myself, was Judgment. I think it's Judgment Conquest of Eternal Champions, or maybe it's just Judgment Eternal Champions. It's a game that used to be in 54 millimeter scale, and it's based around the idea of video game MOBA concepts. Well, Creature Caster, who is an awesome miniature sculpting brand, they do a lot of proxy work for other games, and they ended up getting the licensing for it, and they've made it into a 28 millimeter game, which is a lot more approachable to people, and it's a lot easier to have a game space for. And so my game store owner ended up picking up some copies. He's going to check it a look at it. I picked up a copy, and we're going to start looking around at communities and seeing what we can do around our local area. I'm really excited for it. The minis are gorgeous. I've got them actually priming outside right now while this video is going on. And I hope to get started on them soon, so check out the Instagram for that and see what I'm painting up. Outside of that, I'm also going to probably start looking at some Shatterpoint. I didn't do any demos for it, but it's a game that's easy to take with me to an event, and it's also AMG and Star Wars related, so why not? So yeah, that's fun little side stuff there. The painting comp specifically that I entered. Oh, one other game. I'm sorry. Whoops. The whole reason that got me onto the idea of this. That's why I'm looping back around here. Also, there was Halo Flashpoint by Mantic, which is basically, I don't want to say this rudely, but like a reskin of their Dead Zone with some updated rules and stuff, but in a Halo theme. So the IP is the Halo video game franchise by 343 Industries and Bungie. Or Bungie. They used to be Bungie, and now they're still Bungie, but now the game property belongs to 343. But the miniatures are fantastic. Angel Heraldez, who I've known through the Corvus Belly studio work, is painting all their stuff up, and then all their convention and show pieces for physical stuff is being done by James Wapple, which is another really popular artist that he does fantastic work, and I got to see his stuff in person. He did some Empire Does stuff. He entered into a competition there, and also some of the Halo minis he had up there. Absolutely gorgeous. And so, yeah, Halo Flashpoint, we did a demo of it, or I did a demo of it, and so did some of the other guys I went with. And it's a pretty interesting game. It's got some cool concepts behind it. And I'm just kind of excited. I love Halo, so I'm just excited that you guys might see in every one of my videos the Halo 4 banner that I have behind me. I just love Halo, and so I'm excited to see where that property goes and what that game does. So I think pre-orders are out now. I'm just going to kind of see what happens and go from there. So, all right, for real now, we're going to talk about the painting competitions. So there's not a lot to really say about the Resin Beast and Brush with Death. They weren't competitions that I really prepared for. I don't want to say that I didn't take them seriously. I wanted to compete in them, and I bought minis, but I just didn't prepare for them. I did not take the time I needed to this year, really hobby-wise, on those competitions. And so I painted like a genie guy from Creature Caster and put it in a Resin Beast. Didn't win anything, wasn't expecting to. And then I had a Harem model for Mantic's Kings of War, and I actually ended up getting second to just James Wapple, who submitted it in Brush of Death. So that's cool. A mini that I didn't really have time for, but only lost to a absolute just all-star painter. So, I mean, if I'm going to lose, I want to lose to that guy. So, really cool that I did as well as I did, all things considering, and I just am going to have to be more disciplined and prepared to do this next year. However, the painting competition that I was most proud of and accomplished in this year was Golden Demon. So I took, as some of you might have seen on my Instagram already, I took a Gimli model from Games Workshop's Middle-earth strategy battle game line. And I love the Gimli model. It's a great model. It had a lot of opportunity on it for leathers and NMM and different textures and things like that. And I ended up entering it. I spent a lot of time on it. I probably didn't spend as much time. Well, I know I didn't spend as much time as I should have, but I spent a lot of time on it, and I entered it. And last year we made it through like round 1. We got nothing, and this year we got a notable entry. Now, any of you people that might be much bigger painters than I am, like I am hugely inspired by like Eric Swinson and Miniac and Ninjon, and like, I know Ninjon just won his, I want to say his first Golden Demon this year, so congratulations. And Eric and Miniac are very established painters as well. Andy Wardle as well, and then also my good friend Steven Garcia, and then my absolute just brother, my best friend, and just of all eternity, Mark Soley, a Slayer Sword winner, and an accomplished painter himself. To those guys, and any of you guys listening, notable entry is not a big deal. But what this was for me personally was, and I know they're not really like that. They are just over the moon for me. For any of you guys curious, what notable entry is for me is a step up. Last year getting absolutely nothing, and this year getting a literally the next step. So the steps are like nothing, notable entry with a judge's pin, commendable entry, and then a trophy, one of the Golden Demons. Those are like the steps. So for me to get to step 2 in a year is huge, and I'm hoping to get to step 3 next year. And so I'm just gonna keep trying, gonna keep working on it. And to me, this is just while yeah, it sucks to like, all right, you really didn't get anything again this year, and you worked a lot on your piece. It's still something I need to remind myself that, hey, we put a lot of effort into this, and we were rewarded for it. We were told we've made an improvement. Now we can't go below this. If we ever get below this, we're in trouble. We need to just keep going forward. And so I'm going to be, I use the Royal We, of course, very often, as you guys know, but I need to be better about spending more time on my pieces. I'm going to be picking out pieces soon, and for all three of those competitions and getting started on them. I want to as much of a year as I can to work on those and submit them into that competition and give myself the absolute best chance possible to win some of the more established painting awards that are available out there. I love that I got Adepticon medals this year. I love the army painting I do. But army painting, I feel like personally, I have down. I win awards in army painting often, and I'm not trying to brag, and I definitely wish I could win more army painting awards. But I've proved to myself that I have quality, and I can paint armies well and thematic and cool. Now it's time to do the big boys and do showpieces and things like that. I consider that the more serious realm of miniature painting, and I want to strive in that realm. So that's where we're headed with it. I wanna do my absolute best to, um, win some awards next year for these painting comps. I don't know what my pieces are yet. I have a couple ideas, but I haven't nailed anything down. I want to work on some new pieces, start getting some things done, and and hopefully we can do better. So now, as we come to a close, Adepticon was fantastic. Legion and Kings of War had a lot of fun playing the games. Was really excited that I won the awards I did, and the painting competitions I entered in. The creature caster staff and everybody were so cool and very cool. They were excited for my piece. I really enjoyed. I guess that the piece was not a very common model picked, and so they were excited to see it done up and in a different way. And then also, the Mantic staff was like, "Oh, this giant is so cool." And then of course, all of my buddies at GW. I love the Games Workshop staff and Stephanie and Ryan and Zach and then so many others. They're always just fantastic and they're so welcoming, and they make you feel like you deserve to be there. And so, all of that being said, what does this next year look like for ASR miniature art? Let's do a because I'm not going to be doing a video for another month for Lone Wolf or two, and so you guys, if you're not following the Facebook or the Instagram and seeing all the constant updates, what are we expecting this year for ASR miniature art? And I would say the projects we have on board is we have an Imperial Knight Army and a cosplay we're going to try to do for the narrative next year. We have a Shatterpoint team we're going to start working on, a Judgment team we're going to start working on, and then a Rebel Army we're going to start working on. In addition to at least a Resin Beast and a Golden Demon entry. Excuse me. And so that's the excuse me. Ooh, I'm gonna start getting it's a good time. Good thing we're coming to an end. Anyways, that's kind of what we're working on here, and so just keep an eye out on the social media platforms that are out there that I'm on. If you want updates for this stuff, and I would really love any kind of encouragement you have, and I love the encouragement I've already got. Mark and Steve, I mentioned them before. They're my biggest cheerleaders. I feel like they're some of my biggest inspirations, and Steve is just an all around great guy. He was one of my initial supporters. He was very encouraging when I was much younger about keeping up with painting, and I've just not stopped because some of the things he's told me, and he's just a great support. And then Mark is also a great support platform and just a very close friend of mine. We talked about some very serious things and not just hobby stuff, but we've grown together and gotten to know each other very closely. But he's also, I consider him my direct mentor, my coach. I've reached out to him for everything I need for how to paint better. And so it's important to have those kinds of people around. And it's also important to have people like Eric Twitzen and Andy Wardle. And big shout out to you guys. Eric, I love you, man. You're a great guy. It's been a pleasure always getting to hang out with you and talk to you. And Andy, I hope I get to meet you one day. And, Miniac, I got to meet you this year at Adepticon. And John, I didn't get the chances to catch up with you, but you're all inspirations to me. And you may never see this, and that's fine, but I'm putting it out there that, we need people like that. And I hope that one day I can be inspiring to somebody and help them on their journey. And that's what that pay it forward kind of a system is. You guys are inspiring to me, and I want to be inspiring to somebody else. And it's time for me to get to that place for my own journey. I'm ready to step it up, and I'm excited to see where we go going forward and what we can bring to the world. So, all right, everybody, I'm rambling at this point. You guys know it and you love it, and I look forward to seeing you the next time. Bye.